Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this GeoTalks Express webinar. I hope that you are having a lovely day, whatever time it is, where you are. And for this webinar, in our GeoTalks Express series, we are going to be talking about Global Mapper Mobile. We're going to be talking about what it is and some of the new features that are available in our most recent update to this app, which is version 2.4. My name is Mackenzie Mills, and I am joined today by another product manager here at Blue Marble, Jeff Hatzel. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Hey, Mackenzie, I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me on with you today.
All right, well, we'll get started. Before we jump into talking too much about Global Mapper Mobile, we have some housekeeping to take care of. For those of you who have attended a GeoTalks Express webinar in the past, this will sound a little bit familiar to you, but just some notes about the webinar format that we have going here. We are using the platform GoToWebinar. Hopefully, you all attendees can hear us, but you are in listen-only mode, so we cannot hear you. If you do have questions about the content that we're going over, about Global Mapper Mobile, or just questions in general as we're going through this webinar in the next half an hour or so, please use the questions panel that you should see as part of the GoToWebinar interface. That questions panel, Jeff and I will both be able to see that, and we'll do our best to answer some of those questions as we're going along and talking about the mobile app. But if we don't get to answer some of those questions, we have your emails and your contact information, and we can follow up and provide you with answers to any questions you may ask. Definitely encourage you to throw some questions or thoughts, comments, feedback, all in that questions panel. Lastly, this session is being recorded. So as someone who has registered for this webinar, whether you're able to attend the entire thing or not, you will be emailed the recorded version of this webinar once it has been processed and posted by our team. So you'll be able to go back to it, review it, and take a second look or share it with colleagues if you would like. Next, I'll talk about some of the future GeoTalks Express webinars that we'll have coming up here in the next couple months. GeoTalks Express is a sort of recurring series that we do here at Blue Marble, a webinar about once a month. Here we're at the very beginning of August talking about the Global Mapper mobile app. And our next webinar will be at the end of August, August 23rd, and we will be talking about the Blue Marble training programs. So some training that we run in order to help you, the users of our programs, utilize them to the fullest extent. Next, we have the What's New in Global Mapper webinars. This is going to be sort of a two-part webinar at the end of September and then the very beginning of October. And this will be for a new version of the Global Mapper desktop program, Global Mapper Standard and Global Mapper Pro. And we'll just demonstrate a bunch of new and exciting features and updates within that program. If you want to find out more about these webinars or sign up, register to attend these to get some reminder emails, and then watch live when they do happen, please visit our website, and I've got that link on screen here. So connecting back to that first or our next upcoming GeoTalks Express webinar on training, we do have some upcoming training classes as well for basic Global Mapper training, sort of utilizing all the functionality in the Global Mapper desktop program, and then a training class specifically on LiDAR processing. These training classes that I have listed on screen are all online training, so they will be hosted through a GoTo platform, where we'll have communication with a live instructor to be led through some workflows and just learn more about how to use Global Mapper and Global Mapper Pro. Note the dates here and the times of these classes as well. We try to vary the time zones that we cater to, so we can, have attendees from all over the world join us for some of these training sessions. And again, if you want more information about upcoming training sessions, the ones I have listed here, and then some additional dates as well, please our website for that information. So with all of that, housekeeping intro stuff out of the way, we can start talking about the agenda and what we're going to go over, and what we're going to learn about Global Mapper Mobile today during the webinar. So we're going to start with an overview. For folks who aren't familiar, what is Global Mapper Mobile? Just like the Global Mapper desktop program, we have a standard version, and then we have a pro version of the app that unlocks some additional features. So we'll go over sort of broad strokes, the standard, and then what you get when you unlock that pro option. And then we'll dive into the new features and some of the bigger updates for version 2.4 of Global Mapper Mobile. We've got a raster information tool for taking a look at some raster data with a little more detail, a new digitizer mode for creating lines on a touchscreen, recording elevations to point features when rain data is loaded. And then our last 3 bullets here are our pro tools, getting into some analysis updates for a few analysis tools that are available in the pro version for Viewshed and volume calculation, and then support for external GNSS Trimble devices. And that is some new functionality as well. So with that, I think I'll pass it off to Jeff to talk a little bit about what Global Mapper Mobile is and just a broad introduction here.
Sure, thanks, Mackenzie. So Global Mapper Mobile is Blue Marble's mobile app, as I'm sure you've gathered now. It's very much a companion app to Global Mapper, the desktop app that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. The app has been around now for, well, I guess just about 8 years. Always easy for me to remember because it came out right around when I started at Blue Marble, which now feels so long ago. But the app has really grown since then and really developed into such a useful and versatile tool. It allows for field data viewing, editing, and even data recording out in the field. And as you'll see today, if you haven't worked with the app before, there's even some analytical tools that you can do and conduct right on the mobile device in Global Mapper Mobile. It's available on both iOS and Android. It's free to download and use. And then there is a pro version of the app as well, and that's really for the more advanced workflows and more pro level users, which is available for purchase right through either through us or through the app stores. And I think Mac, actually, you're going to tell us now a little bit about the differences between regular and the pro version, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So that's a great transition there. And we'll start talking about the free version, Global Mapper Mobile. We've got the logo, and that'll be the app icon that you'll see in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store for Android. And that's how you would download this app. It is a free download, as Jeff said. So you can go ahead, download Global Mapper Mobile and check it out. With that free app download, you are able to use the app to collect data and view data. I've just got some high-level tools noted here for what the standard or base version of the app does. This is the free version again. We have vector, raster, and elevation data display. You can display the GPS location of your device, so using the internal location services of your smartphone or tablet device. You can create vector features, points, lines, and polygons or area features by manually drawing on the map or using that GPS location to record some features. You can edit existing features in the map, maybe some that were brought over from Global Mapper Desktop or some that you've just created in the mobile app. You're able to capture images since most smartphones and tablets have a built-in camera. Global Mapper Mobile is able to utilize that, capture images in the field, place those on the map, and embed those images in a saved map so you can bring them back to Global Mapper Desktop for further analysis and just to provide some additional context to your field data collection. Going along with creating some features and collecting data in the field, attributes and longer form notations, including audio recording notations, can be collected with vector features you're creating in the field, or they can be added to vector features that already exist in the map. And then lastly, there is the ability to stream some free data right into the mobile app to provide a little bit of context, stream some OpenStreetMap data right around your location maybe, to help just provide a little context what you're looking at around you and some of those main features. So that's all available in the free version, and it builds a very, usable app for some basic data collection or field reference. The Pro version of Global Mapper Mobile, or Global Mapper Mobile Pro as we generally call it, is a subscription-based option. So it's a yearly subscription, and as Jeff mentioned, the subscription can be purchased as an in-app purchase on iOS or directly through Blue Marble from our website. We also have some enterprise licensing options there. And some of the tools and features and functionality that you get with the Pro option, the subscription here, is some advanced positioning options. This includes connection to external GNSS units through Bluetooth or a TCP IP port connection. You can add RTK corrections if you know of a available RTK correction source or you subscribe to one, and you can log right into that via a built-in Ntrip client in the Global Mapper Mobile Pro app. There's also an option for GPS averaging, so taking in some position information over an amount of time in order to boost the accuracy of that position. You can stream additional online data into the mobile app onto your map easily, and you can also add some custom online sources. This is very similar to streaming online data in the Global Mapper desktop program. We have a tool for simultaneous feature creation. So as you're creating a GPS-enabled track log for a line or a polygon feature, you can drop points of interest along that track to add a little bit of additional information and just collect more data as you're walking along or moving along some feature of interest in the field. The analysis tools available in Global Mapper Pro are Viewshed creation and volume calculation. And these are just some basic analysis tools based on the current location or existing features that provide some context or quick calculations in the field that can be viewed on your smaller phone or tablet device. Pro also includes options for data reprojection, a little bit of geocoding with an address search, so you can determine sort of where you are versus a point that maybe you're looking for, and then some additional file format support for GeoPDF and GeoPackage file formats, which are both fairly common. We did get a question about updating to the Pro version or updating the app version in general. And just like any other mobile app you'll find on a smartphone or tablet, you should be able to go to the App Store and either tap to download or update the app to make sure you're running the most recent version of the Global Mapper Mobile or Pro app that you have. They are the same app download from your respective app store. And then to register the Pro module with that subscription, you can go from the main menu, which we'll see in a little bit, to configuration in order to register the Pro module, or on the opening screen of the app, there should be a big text button to purchase the Pro module.
We had another good question coming, Mackenzie, asking about Google Earth. And it's worth noting that you can add your own online sources to Global Mapper Mobile in the Pro version, but Google Earth no longer has a free version that we can access as a vendor. So that's why it's not built in. And so it's not something that we can add, but you as a user may have the ability to add it.
Yeah, that's a great response. And again, this access to online data, streaming data into the Global Mapper mobile app is very similar to streaming data into the Global Mapper desktop program. So any sources that you can stream into desktop, you should be able to stream into mobile, so you can have access to some of those same online data sets in both places, whether you're at your desk or in the field. And with that, I think we'll start diving into some of the new features in Global Mapper Mobile version 2.4. This is our latest update to the app. And keep your questions coming, you have them, but I think Jeff is going to start first talking about our raster information tool.
Great, thanks, Mackenzie. And I actually, after I talk about this, remind me, we got another great question in. The new raster info tool in Global Mapper Mobile is very similar to the info tips tool on Global Mapper Desktop. If you've listened to me speak before, I'm sure you've heard me mention how much I like the idea of this tool and what it does. In general, on desktop, it shows you, a pop-up context menu of information related to the data under your cursor. Obviously, on mobile, we don't necessarily have a cursor per se. So this is enabled through a tool, and if you're watching along on the video here, the tool allows you, then you tap on the screen and you'll see a little context menu pop up for whichever raster layer you have displayed. And that'll then show you the layer name, the location of the pixel where you tapped. So that'll be the geographic location, whether that's latitude, longitude, or projected units. I think this video has in projected units. It'll also show you the location in terms of where the pixel is relative to the layer's row and column values. And then if it's imagery, you'll see the RGB values. And then if you're looking at or have some elevation data loaded, obviously you'll see the elevation value rather than any RGB values there. So just a really handy way to get some more context about where you are when you're out in the field. And so before I kick it back to Mackenzie, we had two really good questions come in. The first one is asking about correcting GPS location in relation to from ellipsoidal to geodetic height. The short answer to that now is no. There is a much longer answer to that in such that we'll say we don't always know. Obviously, with generic GPS, we know the ellipsoid, but that's not always the case with vendor-specific hardware, and so then we can't properly make the transformation. But if you would like more details on that, shoot us an email. It's something we have dug into a little bit, and we can speak to in a little more detail offline. Someone else asked, they said they had the Pro version and asked if it will update automatically. I assume you're referring to updating to the new release version of the app. And you'll have to just double check in the App Store. That'll depend, especially on iOS, as to whether or not you have auto updates enabled.
Yep, so that Pro license should be retained if you're downloading the new version of the app from, your Google Play or Apple App Store. But if you do have any questions about that licensing, feel free to reach out to us as well. So this raster information tool, someone did just ask about the values that are displayed here. And for elevation layers, it's going to be that, single elevation value associated with every pixel in the layer. And then for image layers, whether those are, RGB, true color, false color, or palette layers, it's going to display the RGB values. So it's not gonna, index that palette as accurately as maybe Global Mapper Desktop will, but it will give you a little information about what's going on at the image at the tapped location. So our next new tool here is a Digitizer mode for creating lines, and it's sort of an intuitive way to create line features on a touch screen using a stylus or your finger to trace along the map. So to the far right of our slide here, we've got a screen recording going where I'm just using my finger to drag down and trace approximately the path of this river from the imagery here. When you remove your finger from the screen, the line will stop drawing, and that will allow you to adjust your view, zoom, or pan along whatever data that you have. At the very bottom of the screen in Global Mapper Mobile, there's a little play button. Tap that, and then you can continue drawing after adjusting your view. When you're done, tap a check mark button at the bottom of the screen to create that feature. You'll be met with the feature information screen where you are able to add attributes, additional values, select a layer for the line feature to be placed in, and then it will be added to your map and can be saved there as well. So this joins quite a few other options for feature creation in Global Mapper Mobile. Trace mode here is available for lines, but manual tapping or some options using the GPS location derived from something external or the internal location services of your device are also available for feature creation for points, lines, and polygons. And then our last Global Mapper standard tool, so for the free version of the app to download, is adding some elevation to created points. If you want to take this one, Jeff.
Yeah, sure, Mackenzie. So this is, another sort of digitizing feature update, I guess, tool, we'll say. And I've always felt, when thinking about this tool, one of our strong points, whether it's our Global Mapper products, Geographic Calculator, et cetera, is the flexibility that our users have depending on how and what they need to accomplish. And so while this tool to me, you say it's, oh yeah, that sounds pretty simple. I'm essentially adding an attribute to a feature. But it's really quite handy. And so if you see the screenshots here on screen, this is controlled by a configuration setting. And all this option does is automatically add an attribute, an abbreviation of terrain elevation, to a point feature when you create that point feature within the bounds of a terrain layer. What's interesting about this is that if you're creating that point based on an external GNSS device, it will also retain that elevation. So if you look at the right-hand screenshot we have on screen here, we have the elevation attributes from the GPS, and then the terrain elevation from the terrain itself. Obviously, we have those offset a little bit, just so you can see a difference. But this is, a really handy way, whether you're, maybe you're adding a reference elevation from terrain and you didn't have any other elevation to start with. Maybe your GPS signal is poor, or maybe you, simply want to compare the two. This gives you a way to do that rather quickly and rather easily. And overall, it's reasonably automated. It's just one checkbox you set and forget. So a really handy little update there, I think, Mackenzie.
Yeah, I think this is a great one. As Jeff said, it's a little more on the simple side, but it's just adding that additional information to a point feature that you create, so you can have as much information as possible associated with these features, because it's really not that much to store maybe an extra attribute like that, even if you discover down the road that maybe it wasn't quite necessary. So with that, we'll move into the Global Mapper Pro tools and improvements that we have here. First up, we have some improvements to the Viewshed tool, so one of the analysis tools available in Global Mapper Mobile Pro. Viewshed was available in a previous version of the app, but it was based on a created and selected point feature in the map. As you can see from the screen recording, I enabled the GPS location on this device, and I'm using that GPS location as my transmitter location, sort of my viewpoint for this Viewshed. Additionally, in conjunction with using that GPS location, the Viewshed results are not only captured as a raster layer as they were in previous versions of this tool in Global Mapper Mobile Pro. A vector feature can be created here, and with that comes some of those attributes that are associated, those settings that you would have set up as you're creating this Viewshed. And a point feature is created at that transmitter location. And this is particularly useful if you are using your GPS location as opposed to a selected point feature in order to start the creation of this Viewshed. The vector features that are created with this tool can absolutely be saved to the map. They can be saved to your map and then brought back into Global Mapper desktop if you wanted, or just used when you return to this location at a later time for just additional reference layers here. And another important thing to note with this tool is that it is dependent on having terrain data loaded. So this can be terrain data. In this case, this is a layer that I exported from Global Mapper desktop to bring into the mobile app and bring out to the field in a location where I knew I was going to be looking at some features. But it can also be some elevation data that's maybe streamed from an online source. So just improvements to this simple Viewshed analysis tool to provide a little more context to users in the field. And that's really a goal that we have with Global Mapper Mobile, is to provide users with as much information as they need or want to record or create in the mobile app.
Mac, we had a good question come in, someone asking about features created in Global Mapper Mobile exported to shapefile. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we haven't talked too much about file formats for Global Mapper Mobile here. I did mention that with the Pro version, you do have the option to export data to a GeoPackage format, which is a format that can be ingested by multiple programs and will package up various data layers into one single file. But the primary format used with Global Mapper Mobile is a Global Mapper Mobile package file, or a GMMP, and that's the file extension as well. And that allows vector, raster, elevation data, LiDAR data, if you want some of that for reference in the field, to be packaged up into a single, reasonably sized map file that can be transferred from Global Mapper desktop to the mobile app, or from the mobile app to Global Mapper desktop. And so it's a really efficient way to move data. Global Mapper Mobile itself, the mobile app, doesn't support a lot of additional file formats like shape files, for example, just because we try to simplify that data management. You've got one file that contains your entire map with all the layers that you need, making it easy to load and move around. Some of those associated files aren't getting lost along the way. That being said, once you've created your Viewshed, or you've come back and you have your field collected data from Global Mapper Mobile, you come back to the office, or you email it to the map, that Global Mapper Mobile package format, to your colleague, they can open it in the Global Mapper desktop program, and that's where we get that expansive file format support for CAD formats, shape files, and many, many others. So there's a little bit of an intermediate step, taking a closer look at the data, deciding what exactly you want to export to some of those other formats from the map. Cannot be directly done from Global Mapper Mobile, but there are ways to get there involving the more robust desktop program. So that was a long answer to a fairly short question, but I hope it shed some light on some of those different workflows, how you can incorporate these two programs together. So our next tool here is some additional analysis improvements. Jeff, do you want to talk about some of the volume calculation methods available in Global Mapper Mobile?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Mac just talked a little bit about the Viewshed updates, and I think this is the volume calculations are similar in the sense that of how it fits into the scope of a mobile app. When we think about Global Mapper Mobile's growth, then we think about what's appropriate to do on a mobile device, and more importantly, what's useful to do on a mobile device. We may not analyze gigabytes of LiDAR data, right? That's a desktop task given current technology. But there is a real utility to being able to calculate a viewshed or, conduct a volume calculation while you're in the field, right? It helps you get a quick, clear understanding of the region you're working in, maybe of a feature or region you've just outlined or measured or whatever the case may be. And so the initial implementation of this was released probably about a year ago or so. And that was just essentially a flat base calculation where the user would say, I have this area, here is the elevation value that I'm specifying for it, and let's calculate the volume in reference to that elevation. But we have added two new calculation methods to that tool. The first being essentially what relies on per vertex elevation. And so what that allows us to do is if we have an area feature where the vertices have elevation values. So the screen recording on screen now will show that we're going to look at a feature that has each point, each vertex of that area feature has elevations, and those will be used to calculate a more accurate volume calculation based on that area feature. And you'll get a report of that result as well. And then in addition to that, we've now added what we call a pile volume calculation too. And so what that does is rather than, you may not have per vertex elevations with your area feature, but you can apply the elevation from the terrain layer to the area feature and use that as your reference elevation all the way around the area feature. Usually, that's done at the base of a pile or a hole maybe that you have to fill in or something like that. So you can get an accurate representation in relation to the terrain data that you're working with. And we'll see for each of these processes, they give us a little report on screen, and that text report optionally can be saved out if that's something you want to save out later, bring back to the office. You say, hey, maybe this is the area I walked out. Here's the elevation report associated with that.
Yeah, and so these volume calculations, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, Jeff, but they're based off of selected area or polygon features, and these can be features that have been created in Global Mapper Desktop and transferred with your map file to the mobile app, something already existing in your map, or it can be something that you record in the field. So I, go out, walk around these piles, maybe then my per vertex elevations are informed by my, collected GPS height as I'm moving around, as opposed to the terrain layer that exists in my map.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did just get a question about transferring some data between Global Mapper Desktop and Global Mapper Mobile. And that is a great question. So some methods that you can use for that. Global Mapper Mobile does rely on local storage of the map for while you're using it in the field and while you're editing it. And one of the main reasons for that is because you're not always going to have a data or internet connection in order to be streaming data from an external location into a mobile app. So it's best to have some of those map files that you're using stored locally on the device. But to get maps to and from your mobile device, we do have a wireless data transfer tool built into Global Mapper Desktop called the Mobile Data Management Tool, which has some great features for wirelessly connecting to a mobile device, transferring maps back and forth, and even some merging capabilities for maybe bringing a couple different Global Mapper mobile package files together in the desktop app. And then you can use any other method for transferring data between a desktop or laptop machine and a mobile phone or tablet. So, things like emailing the file back and forth, using a shared drive such as Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive, maybe even an iCloud drive for iOS devices. Or plugging that device directly into your machine, plugging your mobile device with a sync cable into your desktop machine and transferring the map that way. So there are quite a few ways to transfer that data, but while you're working with the map in Global Mapper Mobile, all of the changes that you are making to that data and to that map are going to be stored locally on your mobile device until you choose to, share that map back to your desktop computer or to another colleague.
And Mac, we had a couple unrelated questions about dark mode. So just worth noting, I'll say Android had a little change that caught us off guard with dark mode. So there is another update, probably already in the App Store, Mackenzie, that just updates some dark mode icon stuff for the latest version of Android. But
Yes.
no other major changes to the app. So take a look at that if you're someone who uses dark mode and have any funny icons.
Yes, that is very good to note. We've tried to include some visuals in this presentation that are on both Android and iOS systems, as well as in our standard light mode and then the dark mode. And that update on iOS and Android actually is, I think, version 2.4.0.8. So just make sure you're using the latest version of the Global Mapper mobile app, and you'll get some better looking icons that are a little more usable in dark mode. So our last feature to talk about for this webinar here is some external GPS or GNSS device support, specifically for Trimble devices. Now, this is a feature that was, highly user requested. Trimble has some fairly common or popular devices, and these devices can now be used to provide some more accurate positioning right into Global Mapper Mobile for some of that data collection and digitizing, or just seeing your position on the map with some reference data. So the workflow for this one, it does involve Trimble's mobile app. Trimble Mobile Manager is what that app is called. So it does require that third party or partner app to the Trimble device. Most Trimble devices are connected via Bluetooth to, mobile devices like a phone or a tablet. So the first step in this process would be connecting your device via Bluetooth. Here I have an example connecting a Trimble device to an iPhone here, and then coming into the Trimble Mobile Manager app and connecting the device there so that I'm getting that position information streaming into my iOS or Android device. Using the Trimble Mobile Manager app allows you to take advantage of some of the other Trimble services that company provides, specifically their Catalyst service, which can provide some corrections or some boosted accuracy based on a subscription, and that can all be utilized through the Trimble Mobile Manager app, because once you've got your external GNSS device from Trimble connected through their app, we'll move into Global Mapper Mobile, and this is where from the main menu you'll select to connect to an advanced GPS device, and in this case you'll choose the option for Trimble Mobile Manager while that app is running. This should be an option listed on your select GPS device list in Global Mapper Mobile Pro. And once you select that Trimble Mobile Manager as your device and tap OK, you'll get that information coming into Global Mapper Mobile Pro. You can see that displayed on screen. We've got a little bit of that advanced GPS information. And you can view some additional location information with some tools in Global Mapper Mobile Pro. And then, of course, that information that's coming into the app will be displayed on the map and can be used for creating some vector features, whether those are points, lines, or polygons, using any of the available GPS data collection methods.
That's great. That's been a feature we've been looking to add for a while to work with Trimble, Mackenzie.
Yeah, it's a great one, and it was one that was highly user requested. It is good to note that Trimble, of course, isn't the only external GNSS support that we offer through Global Mapper Mobile. We have a variety of other tested devices, Javad devices, Bad Elf, MLID, EOS devices, and a few others that we have been able to explicitly test with, and many more that our users are able to use in order to get that advanced GPS functionality working and get the higher accuracy positioning and data collection options available through Global Mapper Mobile Pro. So that wraps up the new features that we were going over today during this session. Of course, I encourage folks to download the app and check it out. Before we end, I did see another question that I do want to address, which is asking about some capabilities for forms or tables for data entry, sort of a way to standardize maybe your field data collection. And this is something that is absolutely available through Global Mapper Desktop in conjunction with Global Mapper Mobile. We call these feature templates in Global Mapper Desktop, where you can set up basically the structure for a layer. So maybe a default feature type, a layer name, and then some names and even options for sort of a pick list of attributes that the user in the field with Global Mapper Mobile will have to enter values for some specific attributes in order to collect data and place it into that layer. So we do have some of that capability to enforce some data collection rules, essentially. And that would be done through a setup process in Global Mapper Desktop. You would add that to your map and then export it all and transfer it through a Global Mapper Mobile package file to the mobile app in order to send all that data and that required information out into the field for data collection. So we've got a couple more questions coming in about updating the app and other things. And again, I do encourage folks to go download Global Mapper Mobile for free from the App Store. If you're not already a user, check it out and see how it can maybe expand your use of Global Mapper Desktop. And then if you're interested in the Pro module for a nominal subscription fee, go ahead and check out those options as well. If you want more information or have any additional questions, feel free to check out our website for more information on the mobile app as well as our desktop and other programs. And then you can always reach out to our technical support team, geohelp@bluemarblegeo.com, for any specific questions that you have about any of our programs, including Global Mapper Mobile and existing or new functionality. And I think that wraps up our webinar for today, unless you have any last thoughts you'd like to add in, Jeff.
I don't know. I think we covered everything. We got through a lot of questions, which is always nice for us to have people engaged. So thanks for having me, Mackenzie. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it was great to have you, and thanks for joining me for this webinar today. And I hope that everyone maybe learned a little bit about Global Mapper Mobile and has a great rest of your day. Thank you.